No passa Nadine, no passa Nadini, ciao!
Ok, ciao ragazzi, siamo tornati con
Coming Clean, le nostre interviste in cui intervistiamo i veri personaggi della cultura pop, non quelli di finzione, riguardo il tema della salute mentale. Questa puntata avrà una particolarità, non sarà in italiano.
Esatto, troverete il nostro inglese un pochino stentato, ma sarà una puntata completamente in inglese, troverete la puntata con i sottotitoli su YouTube e invece il resto
Su tutte le nostre piattaforme, Spotify, Anchor, Google Podcast, Apple Podcast, eccetera. Come al solito, ma questa puntata inaugurerà una serie di Coming Clean anche in inglese, perché a volte abbiamo l'occasione di avere dei personaggi veramente, veramente iconici, come questo attore coprotagonista di un film incredibile dei primi 2000.
Sì, un film che ha segnato una generazione, comunque fa parte della cultura dei noi millennials, e un film prettamente British.
Quindi, benvenuti, anzi, bentornati a Coming Clean, no passa nada.
Stay tuned. Hi guys, welcome back to No Pasa Nada, Coming Clean. So today we have a special guest, and we're back with our interviews, and this time there is a brand new information because our interview will be in English.
So, welcome international friends.
Yeah. Welcome international friends. We are two girls. There is another one, but she cannot be here right now, which is a psychologist. And we have Marta Basso, a digital entrepreneur, and Francesca Disegna, which is a graphic designer. And we talk about mental health.
Yeah, so our podcast is the first podcast in Italy tackling the issue of mental health in a pop way. We have analyzed fictional characters such as Lisa Simpson, Harry Potter, Monica and Chandler from Friends, and many, many others. But today we are back with our interviews Coming Clean. They are interviews to real people, maybe struggling with mental health, maybe being advocates for mental health. Today we have a very special guest. He's a British actor, film and television actor. His name is Leo Gregory, and maybe you heard of him, probably you do. You've probably seen the movie Green Street Hooligans, which in some countries, for example, in Italy, is just called Hooligans. And it's an iconic movie from 2005 talking about football and violence and gangs, and especially firms in London and in general in the football area. So Leo Gregory has appeared in many, many films. Maybe you've seen some of them. When I was 12, Out of Control, The Mark of Cain, Wild Bill, Northman, just to name a few. And also in television, especially in the BBC, with Mrs. Biggs, The Musketeers and Strike Back. So it's a very great pleasure for us to have Mr. Gregory today with us here. You're gonna listen to a pre-recorded interview, and then you will find an outro by our great friend and colleague, Giulia Disegna, the psychologist of the group, because of course we need one. And so enjoy the interview. Bye.
Bye, guys. Okay, hi everybody. Here we are with our guest. And so if you want to introduce yourself, he's an amazing actor. He took part in a movie called, I don't know in English, but here
Green Street Hooligans. Yeah.
Here is just Hooligans, in 2005. So there you are. Welcome to Coming Clean.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
So we're going to jump straight into questions because we already introduced Leo very well I hope, in the first segment of this podcast. So Leo, first question is of course around one of the top movies you made, I would say, your role in Green Street Hooligans, in which you play Bover, one of the main characters and one of the heads of the firm. And this character is probably the most psychologically complex character in the movie. We've seen him fight, cry, laugh. We've seen him in all different variations of his behavior. And so seeing your experience in playing this character through a 15-year lens right now, more or less, how did you think you managed to fit into the role and a little bit feel this very complex role?
Okay, so on the basic level of the role, so the basics of the film and the character, did I go to football? Yes, I did. Am I, or was I a young man? Yes, I was. So the basics came very natural to me. I'm a Tottenham supporter, not West Ham, but everything was very similar. With regards to the psychology of the character, in all roles that you play, you have to try, even in the horrible characters that you might play, you have to try and find a truth. And generally, you're going to draw on your own life experiences. And the truth can be, in the obvious sense, something that relates very much to you and that is very natural to you. Or the truth can be reversed in as much as it's not natural to you and it's not something that you would do or a way that you would act, and you reverse it and come at it from a reverse angle, if you will. So in terms of the psychology of the character, he was very much someone who wanted to be part of a family, very much someone who was part of a family, and someone who felt that he was being pushed out by this other entity character that had come into their group. So, you know, it was, I guess, a theme there would be kind of abandonment, if you will. And, you know, so there were things in my life that I could draw on that, not exactly the same, but that I could use the same essence of the emotion for that.
Yeah, so we already touched on some of the points. What have you in common with Bobber? You know, we talked about kind of abandonment issues and group mechanisms that sometimes you just really want to be part of something. And that creates dynamics that are just different from individual dynamics and relationships like one-to-one relationships. And so our psychologist, Julia, is going to talk about it in the outro, of course. And so staying on that, these thoughts about this character, how do you think, so you said you're a Spurs fan, we didn't mention it before, and I knew you were going to say that. So so that's very, that's very cool to stay here because it leads us to the second question, which is how do you think as a person, of course, like me, for example, who actually goes to the stadium and, you know, watches soccer, like football, and likes it and then loves it, just as many British people and Italian people. How do you think this movie and playing this character has helped you understand the psychological dynamics of these really organized groups, such as football firms, in which sometimes violence is also like it's a normal part of it, and sometimes it's even encouraged. Like, was it hard? Have you experienced something like this in your real life? For example, I did, so I know how it goes, but I don't think it was fairly easy to really get into this specific side of the character.
Okay, for me, I mean, as I said, and as you said, I'm a Tottenham supporter. I have been going for years. I know a lot of people who do that for real. So the actual hooliganism side or the football firm side, it was quite easy for me to ask people to find out. But even without that, for me, it was quite simple. So football firms, and certainly Bobber in this one, they're a family, so they want to be part of a family. So as males, more than female, I would say as a general trait, quite simply, if I was walking down the street with, I would try not to do this, but if I was walking down the street with my mum and my brothers, and a group of other people on the other side of the road started shouting abuse at me or at them, or trying to throw things or hurt them in any kind of way, physical or verbal, I'm going to protect them, you know? So I didn't even, obviously I am from a football world, so it was easy for me in that sense. But even if I hadn't been, it was a very easy connection to make. Now, to take that on a level to the mechanics and the, I think you sort of touched on the organization side of it. Again, you know, you can be part of football, or you can quite simply say it's the military. Now, we've all grown up being aware of the world wars and current wars, you know, and military kind of way of doing things. And it's very much that, in as much as a military, a football team, a rugby team, basketball, anything. When you're part of a team or a family, or even more so a military organization, there is no one person above anyone else. Everything is for the love and the good of the family, the firm, the team, the badge, you know. So everything is very much, the word I keep using is family, and a kind of primeval urge and ability to protect that family. Now, also what I think has always been very prevalent with football, as opposed to maybe other sports and even other institutions, is that I've always found that football fans, a lot of time, not all the time, and I would say more so going back, they were kind of disillusioned with life, disillusioned with politics, maybe just disillusioned with their job. And it was always, as well as the family camaraderie, it was an outlet to let go of any aggression, let go of any nerves or pent up emotions or whatever. It was a really therapeutic way, and is a therapeutic way for men, women, kids, whoever, to be united, to forget the troubles of the week, the month, the year. And so I think right now, right here in 2020, I think there's a lot of, I'm going to say a lot of guys, I don't mean that in the sense of guys and girls, there's a lot of people that are missing their therapist right now.
We sure do, most definitely. But let's just say we created this podcast also because of this, like because of COVID also. So growth mechanisms, escapism, recovery therapy, we touched all of these points. So let's get to the mental health side of the interview. You talked about group mechanisms to be part of a family, and sometimes what we look to find in social media, but sometimes we don't, and we seek for it is family, like is support. And in this sense, we've seen, and we got in touch with you actually after seeing your participation in the Cracked Not Broken campaign for mental health, which of course it's really powerful statement saying, you know, you are cracked, you're not broken inside, like it means you have cracks, but you work just fine, right? And so just in a general sense, like what is mental health for you, and how do you take care of yours on a daily basis, which I think is very useful. It's a question we always ask because it's very useful for people, especially these times in which we most of all struggle with our own personal mental health.
So mental health is personal to everybody, personal to every individual. It's a very complex subject, much like the brain is a very complex thing. Mental health is a very complex thing. If I was pushed to find one word that I could say for me that was maybe at the root of the mental health issues that I've witnessed in my life, if I had to pick one word, because as I say, it's very complicated and there are many, many, for me, it would be happiness. Now, I know that isn't a one rule for all, but a lot of the people, okay, so I've grown up, I live in London, As you know, London, like other cities, but London especially, can be a very tough city. You can have abject poverty literally 100 meters from the greatest wealth you can imagine. And I hate to bring it to money, but it's just an easy comparison. So in a city like London, yes, mental health, not for a second, is exclusive to a class or a financial situation. 100% not, it isn't. But at the same time, of what I've witnessed in London and with my eyes, is, for me, the mental health is a lot more fractured and dare I say it, cracked, hopefully not broken, amongst the poorer entities. Education isn't as good, social care might not be as good, financially, obviously, it's not great. The surroundings that they live in, so there's many factors. So, as I say, mental health is personal to every situation, and it can affect anybody. But I think if I don't know this for a fact, but for me, it would be disproportionate amongst poorer situations than people that can live freely, move freely, eat what they want, travel where they want, read what they want. These are all things that, can, for the most part, inform us and help us in these situations, if that makes sense to you.
Yeah. All right. So I'm sorry if my dog is barking, but in fact, talking about mental health, I got a dog on Sunday, and she's a rescued puppy, and it's helping me a lot for my why. But she's helping me a lot with Unagi. Stop.
That was actually.
Yeah, she's called Unagi, like the eel in a Japanese way, and like sushi. So, I really liked your speech about mental health, and I'm asking you why you decided to take part on a mental health awareness campaign. Why mental health instead of other topics?
Okay, that would be for a lot of reasons. In no particular order. So it's something that's very personal to me. I've seen it firsthand, with family members, with friends. I've lost friends over the years. So the foundation is that it's very, very personal to me. Beyond that, even if it wasn't as personal to me, I believe, I feel like we're coming out of it a bit, but I feel for many, many years, all of my childhood, 20s, 30s, most of my life, there was a stigma attached to it. It was the unseen illness. If you break your arm, it has a cast, everyone can see the cast. Oh, you're poorly, you have a bad arm. The same for the leg. Oh, you've been cut, you're bleeding, there's blood, I can see you're in pain. Mm-hmm. You can't see in somebody's head. You can't see inside their heart. You can't see the illness. So for years, for too many years, it has gone untreated, and even beyond untreated, unrecognized as even an issue. And I know, okay, look, we are in a world, I know there's an end game to this, but we're in a world right now where everybody is feeling the effects of COVID, and the whole world is changing as a result of COVID. Now, COVID, for a small percentage, can be fatal, and that's fucking tragic. For a large percentage, it's going to make you feel really bad. It's going to put you in bed. You're not going to be able to get out of bed. Everybody understands that it's COVID. Well, I've seen people with mental illness, depression, more for this one, that they can't get out of bed. They can't get out of bed for days, a week, months. I won't mention someone. I saw someone very close to me basically stay in bed for the best part of, I want to say 2 years, you know, literally just taking Prozac and just hardly leaving the bed. So in the grand scheme of things, it's the fact that it's unseen, the fact of the stigma, the fact of how debilitating it can be, to the point of, as I mentioned, I've lost friends, so it can be debilitating to the point of, I can't live anymore, I can't be here anymore, do this anymore, goodbye, which is so tragic. Even if it doesn't get to that stage, it can take over someone's whole life to where they don't interact with people anymore. They become reclusive. I don't know, you know, they don't know, you know, it can take them an hour to work out what clothes to even put on, just because the brain stops functioning. And for something that is as serious as today's COVID, or anything, something that can literally make you a prisoner in your own body, your own mind, your own home, is excuse my language, is fucking awful. And the more people that speak up about this, and the more that is done, and the more research that is done, you know, I pray that one day we can get to a point where it's at the very least more manageable and understandable. And the last thing I will say as well as Crap Not Broken, there's another company called Boys Get Sad Too, which was one of the first ones I came on board with. And everything that I've just said applies to everybody, but still there is a slight difference with men. There are still a massive percentage of men that say, you know, stiff upper lip, man up and deal with it, or just men. I would be guilty of this because I kind of say that I've lived 35 years in the old world and a few years in the new world. And because I've lived the most of my life in the old world, where it was like that, you didn't cry, you didn't say you had a problem, you didn't speak up about things, you just shut up and you got on with it, and you were a man. And so because I have one foot in that world and one in this new world, I can understand everybody from that old world still being like that, because it doesn't change overnight.
Well, yeah, I agree with you with every word you say. So if you have superpowers, like, you know, you can change anything you want to, what would you change about the narrative of mental health?
Just because you can't see it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. Just because the person in front of you might be able to do that doesn't mean that that's what they are in the inside. What else about the narrative of it? I mean, I feel like the stigma is disappearing, but that needs to go totally. And I guess I think I don't know if I've seen this. I see a lot of people talking a good game about mental health, and we need to do this and we need to do that. I don't know what happens, because obviously I'm an actor. I don't know what happens in the normal workplace if somebody is sat in the office and goes, look, I feel like crap, I feel bad. Does their boss go, I totally get it, you go home and you come back when you can? Or how does that work? So I don't know, but I would like, you know, if we could get to a situation where, as I say, if somebody's in the office and they're puking up, everybody goes, you're sick, go home. I want it to be the same for people whose sickness is different.
Yeah, I guess it depends on the workplace. We see lots and lots of bosses, you know, changing the narrative, but of course, there are several others that actually still think they need to man up, or just, you know, shut up because of the good of, I don't know what, maybe the company, maybe other people around, and then they crack, and they crack very badly.
Yeah.
So last question. What is your vision about recovery? What is recovery for you, and what would you like to share with our listeners about recovering and struggling with mental health issues?
Again, for me, much like what I said about mental health, I think recovery is very personal to the individual. So to bring back the analogy to the illness that we can see, excuse me, when the cast is on the arm, you've got a broken arm, cast comes off, oh, your arm's better. So mental health isn't going to be like that. Sometimes yes, and hopefully people make full recoveries, and and it's a bad episode, and hopefully they never have to think or deal with it again. I don't personally believe that is going to be the case for the most part with mental health. So recovery can be getting better. Recovery can be learning to live with something. Recovery can be accepting that I'm good now and I may not be good tomorrow or next year, and understanding that, and when and if that happens, not falling back down all the way again. Recovery can be a partner who didn't understand it, learning to understand that their partner has this, and so they can both recover. In a sense, it's not just the one. It can also be the boss who changes his stance. Maybe that's his recovery. I guess it would be, look, if you are someone who's been a drug addict or an alcoholic and you effectively get clean, that doesn't mean to say that, God forbid, a death in the family down the line, the breaking up of a relationship, losing a job, God forbid one of our little doggies has an accident, any of these things can trigger this. And so recovery isn't about necessarily striving for, that's it, I've beaten it, never again. If you can, great. But I think recovery is just understanding you, understanding the situation, understanding that, especially in 2020 and probably 21, life is going to be hard, and there are going to be up days and down days, and managing those, I guess, if that makes sense to you.
Yeah, it really makes sense.
It does. So recovery, and I think the message of trying to live with something, and coping, and not being, we always say just get out of the judgment zone. Like, you need to stop judging yourself and other people, and then maybe feel even guilty because you feel something. Guilt is not part of what we do in this podcast, in this small tiny space, but most importantly, that it needs to be avoided at all costs, because it's a mental loop that it just takes us down. And so recognize it, and then you can fight it. So questions are
So one last thing I would want to say, it goes into the recovery thing, I guess, would be, and you just touched on it, was people need to give themselves a break. They need to not be so hard on themselves. And, I've heard this a few times from many different people over the years. I didn't want to be a burden to my partner, my friends, my family anymore. I didn't want to put them through it. I'm just dragging everybody down. If I could say one part of recovery from my take on it, would be just cut all that out, because the people that are around you, they do love you. They will always have time for you. They will never want to see you think like that, or for you to take the wrong step after that. So if anybody out there listening has any thoughts like that ever, just give yourselves a break, because they're not true, and all they will do will stifle your recovery and potentially lead you to a point where recovery isn't an option.
That's a very powerful message indeed. I think, our listeners really do, I think they really needed it. So questions are over. Just one quick thing that, of course, we'd like to remind people, especially in Italy, except from the mental health side, you've been partnering with Weekend Offender to launch a signature collection that will be in stores from October 29th in Milan, in Naples, and of course online. And surely I'm gonna buy one of the, of the clothes, because I'm surely touched by the topic. And so for everyone who's listening from Italy and of course all over the world, just be sure to check it out. Podcast is gonna be published beforehand, so before the 29th. And so please go check it out. Also, if you want to follow Leo on his Instagram, the handle is
at Leo Greggs. And also to say, whenever I have the time, I get lots of people sending me messages, private messages about things that maybe are happening to them in their life. If ever whenever I have the time, I always reply, and I'm happy to talk to people that need someone to talk to.
Hashtag talk to Leo. Okay. That's very cool. That's very cool of you. So thank you so much.
Thank you. I love your word. I love your thoughts, and I agree with everything you said. So thank you so much.
So see you in London when this freaking pandemic thing is over.
Or if you want to come
Yes.
to Italy, we live near Venice. So if you want to step by, you have 2 homes that we can be your host. Or
thank you so much.
Thank you. Well, Veneto has done very well with the virus, the region.
Yeah, well, right now we're not really okay, but maybe in the future when we will beat this virus.
Keeping strong.
There you go.
Thank you so much, Leo. Bye.
Thank you, guys.
Bye.
Ciao.
So here we are at the very end of this episode of No Passa Nada Coming Clean. We thank Leo a lot for being with us and for this open and honest conversation we've been having about the specific topic of mental health. A good thing we've been sharing with him is that mental health has no gender whatsoever. What does it mean? That even boys do cry, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's okay to share our emotions with people we're surrounded by. And it's okay to feel not okay sometimes. It's alright, as is alright, to try to gain back our well-being by letting us open and free to share what we've been dealing with in the last couple of days, or weeks, or month, or hour. There's no need to feel the shame in what is part of our mental health. Because that's what it is. That's health. That's why we are trying to defeat the stigma over all the mental health narrative and storytelling.